This podcast is brought to you by WRFL, Radio Free Lexington. Find us online at wrfl.fm. Catch us on your FM radio while you're in Central Kentucky at 88.1 FM all the way to the left. Thank you for listening, and please be sure to subscribe.
Hi, and welcome to From the Woods, Kentucky. I'm Renee Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Lhotka. Today in studio, we have Laurie Thomas. Laurie is an extension forester in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources at the University of Kentucky. It's a pleasure to have you in our studio today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Since we're beginning the fall season, we're going to start talking about fall colors. But before we start talking about that, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do at UK.
Okay. I am an extension forester. I've been with Cooperative Extension Service, which is the outreach education part of our university, for almost 3 years. And prior to that, my background was I was a park naturalist and manager with Parks and Recreation here in Lexington. My background is forestry. I have my degrees in forestry with an emphasis in ecology. Did not think I was going to end up in forestry when I was in high school. It wasn't a direct route for me. I started out in communications, really enjoyed geology and art history, but I took a class, Dr. Jim Ringe's class actually here in the Department of Forestry many years ago, and it was the Intro to Forestry, and it piqued an interest. And also a lot of environmental issues, a lot of things were going on at that time, stuff in the Pacific Northwest with the spotted owl and whatnot. And there were a lot of people talking about our natural resources in our forests, and I kind of felt like I want to be a part of that conversation, be in there somewhere. And I ended up in forestry, and I haven't looked back since. I've loved it. It's been, I've learned a lot because I did not come from a natural resources background. I was an urban kid, I didn't grow up on a farm or anything, so I've learned all kinds of stuff about nature that I didn't know before.
That's good. Thank you for telling us about your background and what got you interested in forestry. So tell us a little bit. We've just started fall, as Renee mentioned, and why do leaves change color?
Oh, well, that's a good one. I got to admit, fall is probably my favorite time of the year.
Mine too.
Exactly. The colors are wonderful. You get that beautiful blue sky, and then what we're going to be seeing soon, the beautiful, vibrant leaf color. So it's a cool thing, really, why leaves change color. So during the growing season, our leaves are this beautiful, nice green, and that's due to the chlorophyll that is in those leaves. Those leaves are producing chlorophyll because that's part of the process in photosynthesis. With that sunlight, the chlorophyll, and carbon dioxide, the trees are able to make food. So the leaves are the food factories of those trees. So we've got all that wonderful green, but as the days start to get shorter and our nights longer, it triggers in that tree, it's time to stop this production of chlorophyll. So it slows down to the point of stopping. The leaf is no longer producing this great green pigment, and without the production of it, it starts to dissipate, it disappears from the leaf. And once it does that, it's now unmasked those other pigments that are in those leaves that's been covered up with that bright green throughout the growing season. So we'll start to see all these other colors that are within our leaves, these other pigments. And it's beautiful, and they vary from tree to tree and whatnot. But we'll see this time of the year, we're going to see as we start into October, yellows, oranges, and browns, and those are the pigments that are attributed to carotenoids, a carotenoid pigment. And then our red and purple colors, like we'll see in a lot of like black gums or our red maples, those are due to an anthocyan pigment, which is produced in the fall when the sunlight is bright and there is an excess of sugar in the leaves. So those purples and reds can be more vibrant depending on if there was more sugar for that tree, and we have good bright fall sunny days.
So do different tree species turn different colors in autumn?
Yes, they do. You'll notice we don't have all just yellow trees.
Right, that's what I was
just
thinking.
all red trees out there. They do. And you can kind of start to figure out which trees, after you look at them for a while, which group of trees you might be looking at. But the unmasked autumn colors will be more dominant, like I said, in particular groups of trees. Our oaks, which we have in the state, we have a lot of different types of oak species here. Those are typically a little less showy. They're going to be those reds, red to brown color. Not quite as spectacular as some of the others, but we do have a lot of oaks, so we're going to see a lot of that color out there. Our hickories, which we have numerous hickory species as well in the state, a lot of our forest, as you think about them, really a lot of oak hickory forest in the state. Our hickories are going to turn usually a lovely golden yellow, and then they'll get some variations into brown, but you'll think of them first of all as that lovely golden yellow. And now maples, those can be showstoppers. Those are going to be really nice, and that's partly why people plant maples in their yard, because it is a showy tree. It's got the cool spring flowers and it's got the samaras, but it's got the great fall color. And we've got red maple and sugar maple, or the maples that natively grow here. And sugar maple it's really beautiful. It's going to turn the leaves, depending on that individual, a orangish to yellowish, or an orangish to red. So it'll slowly transition. You'll actually see it be a little bit more, and then it's going to go a little bit more yellow. If it goes from a little red to a little yellow. So very, very, very pretty, which is part of what you see up in New England. That's the beech maple forest up there. So you're going to see beech birch maple up there. You're going to see a lot of those colors in New England. And with us having sugar maple here, we get to see that here as well. Now, red maple is red maple because the leaves in fall can be an extremely vibrant red. And just kind of depending on if it's a really good year for fall colors or not. But it'll typically turn that nice deep red, thus red maple. And that's why people plant those in their yard. Now, another tree that's planted quite a bit is Kentucky's state tree, which is the yellow poplar or tulip tree. It's got a variety of common names. It typically turns a lovely yellow, golden yellow. So again, it's a very appealing tree. It's appealing in all seasons too. It has great spring flowers, but it has great fall colors as well. And so as some of these, and it's something to think about too, and when you're just out looking at them, colors can help you sometimes maybe figure out what group of trees this is, but also if you're thinking about planting trees. If you want to add some color to your landscape, as you're thinking about putting in an order, say through the Kentucky Division of Forestry, tree seedlings right now, you can put in your order form right now to order your tree seedlings for the spring. Think about some of those colors you might want in your yard or on your property. Do you want some bright colors? Black gum's a great one. It's got a lot of reds. It typically have a lot of red in it, sometimes a little purple. But again, those maples tend to be really nice.
Well, you mentioned one thing about the conditions and how they vary from year to year. What are some of the weather conditions that cause the fall colors to be so spectacular?
Sure, yeah, and that's one of those, it varies depending on what our year's been like, but because both temperature and moisture play a determining role in that dramatic leaf color. But for the most part, those most intense autumn colors colors will be typical as a result of a warm, wet spring. We had a reasonably warm, wet spring. Pleasant summer weather. We got a little hot here and there. And some warm, sunny fall days with the cool, crisp nights. That's the combination that's going to give you the best fall colors. But you got lots of variations within that will still have good fall color. Kentucky is an extremely diverse state for our tree species. We have well over 120 different tree species. So with that, we're going to see a lot of variation in fall color, which makes it dramatic anyway. But if we get those types of weather conditions, that a warm, wet spring, a pleasant summer, warm, sunny fall, and a cool, crisp nights, we're going to have a really dramatic year. So far, the predictions are it's going to be a pretty good year. We've gotten some rain now recently, and anytime we get rain, wind, storms, we're going to pull leaves down, and that will impact fall color. But right now, predictions have been pretty good that it's going to be an okay fall for us as far as colors go.
So when do you expect the peak here in central Kentucky?
Always the thing
everybody wants to know.
Right, when should you start planning your trips, your forays out, into the forest or whatnot? Well, there's a couple of places that do predictions. The Farmer's Almanac is a good one to start with. And it predicted, I checked it out because I hadn't actually used it. I used another one I'll tell you about in just a sec. But the Farmer's Almanac predicts good fall color in the eastern part of the state between October 5 5th through the 21st. With that, the colors moving to the western part of the state, peak colors between the 12th and 28th. So pretty much a good chunk of October is going to look pretty nice. And we're kind of seeing that. We're starting to see a little bit of color here at the end of September. Now, the Smoky Mountain Fall Foliage Prediction Map, which is really cool. You can click on a date and it's going to show you, this is for the entire United States. It's not just for Kentucky. But you can see how that fall color prediction as it moves across the country. It indicates that just a little bit later than the Farmer's Almanac. So they're looking at maybe about a week later, we're going to really start picking up some, not peak, but getting close to peak in the eastern part of the state, and it lasting a little bit longer, lasting through the end of October, even to that first week of November. But it's great. Go if you get a chance, go to the Smoky Mountain Fall Foliage Map. Even if you just Googled Kentucky fall foliage, it's going to be probably your first or second website that comes up. And you can see the predictions by date of those colors going from it's just starting, we're getting it's intermediate, to peak, to it's already gone. So it's kind of cool to watch how that goes there. So those are some of the predictions based on these websites from the Farmer's Almanac and for the Smoky Mountain Fall Foliage Report as well. So take a look and let's see. It's always fun to see how accurate those are.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you. And so where can we find more information about Kentucky's fall colors in addition to those great websites that you just mentioned? Are there other resources?
Sure. Yeah. And so one of them was, of course, is the Smoky Mountain Fall Foliage Map. But there's one through the Kentucky Department of Tourism. And that's Color Fall in Kentucky is what it's called. And it's got some interacting. You can actually do posts in there and include photos and where you've seen stuff around the state. I mean, it's a way to share with other people. Like I was at one of the state parks and this is what I saw, so that's in there. So you're going to see where other people are seeing stuff around the state too. So that's the Color Fall in Kentucky, and that's through the Kentucky Department of Tourism. Be a good place to look as well.
So, any suggestions on where to view these fall colors?
Well, as we said, Kentucky's really diverse, and we've got over 12 million acres of forest here. There's a lot of places to go see fall colors. I mean, Kentucky as a state, we have 49 state parks. So, and those state parks are all accessible. They're open to the public. Most of them have some form of a trail system, whether it be short or long. So those could be a great place to start. I personally usually kind of go towards the eastern part of the state. We got our most diverse forest there. And I love to visit Natural Bridge because you're going to get up on that bridge and boy, you just see the fall carpet out before you. And that's a nice one. It's not far from Lexington, about an hour, and you can be really seeing some fall colors there at Natural Bridge. There's another one, though, that is a gorgeous, gorgeous state park. It's actually a bi-state park, and it's at Breaks Interstate Park. And it's partially in Kentucky and partially in Virginia. And the closest city is Elkhorn City. So it's a drive. You'd probably want to plan an overnight, a camp or something if you wanted to go see the fall colors there. But it's referred to as the Grand Canyon of the South. Wow. So, and it's got trail systems that are up. So looking down into this canyon that is forested down in there, and then there's trail systems below, so you can look up at the beautiful fall colors as well. So it could definitely be worth, if it's a good fall color year, it could be worth a trip down there as well. We've also got a lot of state parks that have lakes, which can be beautiful too. If you like to get out and canoe, do a little, paddling around and see your fall colors. Lake Barkley is a real gem over in western Kentucky. Plus, you've got all of the land between the lakes that you can do hiking, horseback riding over there as well. And a little closer to home, we could hit Lake Cumberland State Park or even Cave Run up around Moorhead. Both of those are easy to take a canoe in or out, or if you have just a small boat or something, and get to see those fall colors from the water would be really nice. There are a few other places that aren't our state parks, and I wanted to mention those because some of those are ones that might be a little closer. Maybe you don't want to make such a big drive. But Kentucky, we have a state nature preserve system here in the state, and there are many, many state nature preserves, but there are 30, actually a few more than 30 that are actually open to the public, so that the public, they have trails in it, so you can actually go hiking. These are going to be a little less, they're not going to be as developed as what we'd find in our state resort parks or our state parks. It's going to be more primitive. It's going to be trail system. There may or may not be restrooms or whatnot, but you can see some really beautiful fall colors there, possibly less people too. If you kind of really want a much more quiet, maybe a little more spiritual type hike, those might be a nice one. And there's several of those along the Kentucky River, so that's on the Palisades. So you're going to have stunning views from up above and of the Kentucky River down below. And those are places that aren't, like I said, not as populated as much as some of our state parks, or even some of our local natural areas, which I wanted to definitely mention. One here is a Raven Run Nature Sanctuary. It's a great natural areas that's part of Lexington Fayette Urban County government. It's open to the public 7 days a week. Check their hours. They vary with the season, but they're open for an extended period of time. So do check their hours before you go down there. But Raven Run is, it's all along the Kentucky River on the Palisades, so you've got a great view looking out over the Kentucky River. But you've got 10 miles of trail also to hike on. It is a popular park on the weekends especially, but with 10 miles of trail, you can definitely get some solitude, a little peace while you're out there.
And how many acres is Raven Run?
It's over 700 acres.
Wow.
So you
can see some trees with that.
Yes, you can. And they've also got some of the beautiful fall. They've got warm season grasses there. And so you're going to see some beautiful fall flowers in those meadows, then coupled with the great fall colors in the trees as well down there.
We'll be right back with Laurie Thomas talking about fall colors after a quick break. Okay, before we get back to our main segment, we're going to listen to our wildlife sounds from the forest. And for those of you that might be new listeners to our show, each week we're going to have a brief sound bite for a wildlife sounds from the forest. And Dr. Matt Springer will introduce that sound. And then later in the show, we'll hear kind of his explanation of what the animal is and a full description of what that sound is. So let's listen to Dr. Springer.
For our segment on wildlife sounds of the forest, we're going to cover this noise here. We're going to talk about what makes it, why they make it, and what other versions they could hear in Kentucky for our animals.
All right, we're back. Thank you for joining us. We're here with Laurie Thomas today, and she's been talking about fall colors. Let's get back to that interview.
Another one that I've always really enjoyed is Berea College Forest. There's the Indian Fort Mountain trails at the Pinnacles. Great views there. And if you have a pet and you like to go hiking with your pet, you can take pets to the Pinnacles. You cannot have pets at Raven Run, but you can go hiking with your dog at the Pinnacles, and it's going to give you go up in the knob area, those knob areas, and you're going to have great views of the surrounding forest and the farmland down below of that bluegrass area. And it's a short distance. Berea is not very far from Lexington, so that's an easy day type trip if you wanted to do that. There are a few other places that if you can go onto Kentucky State Nature Preserves and you can find it. There's a map that lists all the preserves that are open to the people that we mentioned. Click on it and you can see where it's at in that county. And of course you can find out about about Berea College and about the parks here in Lexington. But there's two books I wanted to mention that I have used, and I know many people have these too. One of them is 50 Hikes in Kentucky, and it's by Hiram Rogers, and so it's got list 50 great hikes. It tells you all about the hike, what you expect to see, is it an easy or is it a challenging type hike, so you know what you're prepared for. And these are all across the state. They're going to be down in the Big South Fork, down in McCreary County. You're going to find stuff over in Bell County. Around Pine Mountain. It'll have stuff up in the Jefferson Memorial Forest as well. So you're going to have some really neat options for hikes there, and it's 50. So you can maybe click off a few each year, plus seeing those wonderful fall colors. And the other one I wanted to mention was Hiking Kentucky. It's one of the Falcon Guides. It's a guide to 80 of Kentucky's greatest hiking adventures. And again, it's laid out very much like 50 Hikes of Kentucky. Each page or 2 pages gives you a map of what the trail looks like, gives you directions to where the trailhead is, what county it's in, what to expect, what's popular there in the spring. Is it known for its spring wildflowers, or is it known for its fall flowers or fall color, waterfalls, whatnot like that. Both of those are great books. You can get them at any local bookstore. So those are 2 that I'd recommend if you wanted to couple seeing fall colors with more than just maybe a Sunday drive, which is always fun too. But if you wanted to actually get out and get up close and personal, pick out a couple of good hikes and go do some of those would be a lot of fun. One other thing I wanted to mention was if you want to see fall leaves, but maybe see them fast, down at Raven Run Nature Sanctuary, they have the Raven 10K and the Robin 5K, which this is trail running, which is another recreational activity that people like to do out in the woods. And Raven Run is known for trail running down there anyway. And that's going to be on October 7th, and registrations are online right now. If you Google Raven 10K, it'll come up how you can sign up for that race for those trail runners out there to get involved and be out in fall when you're out there seeing those fall colors and stuff. So, yeah, a lot of great things we can do this time of year. For one, it's gotten cooler. It's nice to be outside. Some of the mosquitoes, other insects are maybe fewer of those out, plus just all the great leaf color out there.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for telling us about all the fall information and the background on that. That's very helpful. What would be one takeaway item that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I would say get outside. If you can, get out, enjoy fall. Whether you're going out alone or with a friend, get out and let nature, to sound corny, kind of wash over you. It is being out in nature, taking a hike is really beneficial to us, both physically and for us emotionally. It helps really relieve a lot of stress, and I think some of us can have pretty stressful lives. Get out, enjoy nature, and enjoy.
Great. Well, thank you, Laurie, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you'd like more information on what you've heard in this segment of today's show, please visit our website at www.fromthewoodsky.org. So stay tuned now for Wildlife Sounds from the Forest.
Welcome to Wildlife Sounds from the Forest. Today we have Dr. Matt Springer with us to talk about that sound that we heard earlier. Let's play it again so we can hear what that is.
So, for those of you who haven't guessed, the topic of today's show is woodpeckers. And the sound that we heard was actually a pileated woodpecker thumping away on a tree in the forest. A pretty common sound heard especially in southeast Kentucky, but one that you can hear in your backyard right here in Lexington.
Okay, I have to ask, why do woodpeckers peck wood?
Well, kind of like why do woodchucks chuck wood, right? It's
Right.
somewhere in that. There's a couple different reasons. The first being food. Their major food source is found in the trees, and to get at them, they have to peck at the wood, and they use their tongue, which has these little barbs on it that make it sticky, and stick it in the hole that they made and grab out the insects that are inside the tree bark, and that's what they eat. So that's the first reason they peck wood. The second is actually to use that sound, which is loud and carries through the forest, as a way to advertise their territories and communicate with other woodpeckers. That's one of the other major reasons, and that's the one that usually gets them in trouble when they're on people's houses. They like to use that as their territory trees and peck away at and basically thump away at the houses to make that noise to advertise to other birds. And finally, the last reason they do that is they actually create cavities in trees that are alive and play. That's a really vital ecosystem role for a lot of other species that rely on those cavities, but they make those cavities for nesting and then also as cover from the elements and roosting at night to protect themselves.
So do they make other sounds besides this?
So yeah, that's not their only means of communication. It is an effective means of communication for them, but they do have songs per se, right? It's just like other birds make noises, and you can hear them do that quite frequently. And usually, it sounds like a trill or several little peeps in a row.
So how many species of woodpeckers do we have in Kentucky?
So currently we have 7 species that are commonly found in Kentucky, and they range in size from the pileated woodpecker, which is our largest and is a rather big bird, down to our downy woodpecker, which is our smallest. But we have several different species, and we used to actually have 8 when about 3 decades ago we lost the red-cockaded woodpecker when we lost our pine stands that they relied on down in the Cumberland Plateau. So currently we only have 7 species.
All right. So how can you tell them apart based on their sounds?
So both the drumming on the trees or on your house, unfortunately, are unique to the species. So we can hear this sound. And know that that is the downy woodpecker, or you hear this sound. And know that that's the red-bellied woodpecker. But also their actual songs are unique to the species as well. So you can hear something like this. And that is the northern flicker, one that we commonly hear around the area. Or you can hear this sound. Which is actually the pileated woodpecker again. And they use, like I said, use both of those methods to communicate and are commonly heard throughout both the bluegrass area and entire state of Kentucky.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Matt, for coming in today. We really appreciate you doing another Wildlife Sounds from the Forest.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, thank you for joining us today. You've been listening to From the Woods, Kentucky. If you have any questions about things that you heard on today's show, please visit our website at www.fromthewoodsky.org. Stay tuned each Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. for another edition of From the Woods, Kentucky.
Hey there. If you're enjoying this podcast from WRFL Lexington, you may enjoy our live radio stream at WRFL.FM and, of course, via radio at 88.1 FM in the central Kentucky area. We have a wide variety of programs you're sure to enjoy. Just go to WRFL.FM/schedule and see what programs appeal most to you. Thanks again for listening to this podcast from WRFL Lexington.